Have you ever felt like there's a hidden code that explains how our world works? Well, there is, and today we're going to crack it. We're talking about the incredible and often invisible legacy of ancient Rome. Let's see just how deep its influence really goes.
So to get us started, here's a quick question for you. What do the word computer and the idea of a fair trial have in common? Sounds kind of random, right? But believe it or not, the answer to both is ancient Rome, and we're about to find out exactly how.
So how is that even possible? Well, the first part of the answer starts with something we use every single day: language. Specifically, the language the Romans spoke, which laid the foundation for how millions and millions of people still talk today.
Okay, so the Romans, they spoke Latin. And as their empire just exploded across Europe and North Africa, they took their language with them. Latin became the official language of the government, of business, of the military. Basically, if you wanted to get anything done, you needed to know at least a little Latin.
But empires don't last forever, right? So what happens when this huge, powerful Roman Empire finally collapses? Well, that's when things get really interesting. All these different regions were suddenly cut off from each other. The Latin they spoke started to mix and morph with the local ways of talking, and over hundreds of years, brand new languages started to form.
These new languages have a pretty cool name: Romance languages. And no, it's got nothing to do with love stories. The Romance part comes from the word Roman. These are the modern languages that grew right out of the Latin the Romans spoke. We're talking about huge languages like Spanish, French, Italian, Portuguese, and Romanian.
And you can still totally see the family connection. It's like linguistic DNA. Check this out. The Latin word for mother was mater. In Spanish and Italian, that became madre. In French, mère. They all sound a little different, but you can clearly hear they come from the exact same root.
All right, I know what you might be thinking. That's great for Spanish or French speakers, but I speak English. What's this got to do with me? And you're right, English isn't technically a Romance language. But, and this is a big but, Rome's influence on the English you speak is absolutely massive.
Get ready for a pretty wild statistic. What percentage of all English words do you think come from Latin? 10%? Maybe 20%? How about 60%? No joke. More than half of the words in the English dictionary can be traced right back to the language of the Romans.
Honestly, knowing this is like having a cheat code for vocabulary. If you learn just a few Latin roots, you can unlock the meaning of hundreds of English words. For example, the root port means to carry, so to transport something is to carry it across. Scrib means to write, so you subscribe or describe. And hey, remember that word computer? It comes from the Latin word computare, which means to calculate. The code is hidden in plain sight.
Okay, so Rome built a huge chunk of our vocabulary. But what about that other piece of the puzzle? The idea of a fair trial. For that, we've got to switch gears and look at Rome's other game-changing legacy, its system of law.
You have to understand, before Rome really got organized, laws were, well, they were kind of a mess, mostly just unwritten traditions. This was a huge problem because it meant powerful people could bend the rules or make secret decisions. The Romans had a revolutionary idea. Let's just write all the laws down, put them out in public, and make them apply to everyone.
Now, this didn't just happen overnight. It was a process that took centuries. They started with those old customs, but then took a giant leap forward in 451 BC with something called the 12 Tables. And this system kept evolving. Nearly 1,000 years later, an emperor named Justinian collected all of Roman law into one giant organized code, which is a huge reason we know so much about it today.
So what was the big deal about these 12 tables? It's simple. They were public. We're talking about laws literally carved into bronze tablets and put in the middle of the city for anybody to read. Think about how radical that was. It established a brand new principle. The law is the same for everyone, whether you're rich or poor.
And that incredible idea of equality under the law was really just the beginning. The Romans developed these core principles of justice that were so good, they still form the foundation of legal systems all over the world.
Does this one sound familiar? It should. This is probably the most famous legal idea on the planet. And yep, we got it from the Romans. It's such a simple phrase, but it's one of the most powerful protections for our freedom ever invented.
So what does it actually mean? It means if someone accuses you of doing something wrong, it's their job to prove it, not your job to prove you didn't. They have what's called the burden of proof. If they can't provide solid, convincing evidence, you walk free. This is so important because it protects people from being punished based on rumors or weak accusations. And to make sure the system actually worked, the Romans made it professional.
It wasn't just random people making decisions. Cases were handled by trained judges and legal experts who really studied the law. This meant decisions were supposed to be based on logic and facts, not just someone's personal opinion.
So, as we're seeing, the influence of this ancient empire isn't something that's just locked away in a museum. It's alive, and it's working in our world every single day.
Let's just connect all the dots one more time. Rome's legacy is in the languages spoken by hundreds of millions of people. It's hidden in more than half the words we use in English. It's the foundation for our idea that laws should be public, and it's the source of that fundamental right to be considered innocent until proven guilty. Even ideas about government, like having a republic or a senate, that all has echoes of Rome.
The main thing to remember is this. Rome's legacy isn't just about cool ruins like the Colosseum. It's like an invisible architecture that structures our modern world. It's the code running in the background of our language and our legal system, helping keep things orderly and fair.
And that leaves us with a final question to think about. The Romans created ideas so powerful they've lasted for 2,000 years. So, what are we creating today that will have that same kind of staying power? What part of our world will people be explaining 2,000 years from now?